Picture this. It's 2020. I'm standing on the beautiful Dominican Republic beach in my bathing suit, feeling like I just won the damn lottery because I had finally lost 40 pounds with Weight Watchers. And cue the confetti, right? Wrong. My husband took a photo of me, and when I looked at it later that night in our hotel room, I wanted to crawl under the bed and never come out. Because there I was at my goal weight, looking like a deflated balloon with legs. I had skinny arms, skinny legs, and a belly that looked like I was smuggling a small watermelon under my bathing suit. Meanwhile, there were women my age on the same beach who looked fit, toned, like they could casually bench press a kayak if they needed. And I looked like someone who'd been surviving on celery sticks and broken dreams. That photo absolutely wrecked me. But it was also became the turning point that changed everything. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, tracking every bite, working out religiously, sacrificing your social life for the diet, and yet you still don't look like or feel like how you want to, girl, I want you to grab a protein packed snack and settle in, because I'm about to tell you exactly how I went from skinny fat and defeated at 41 to the strongest and best shape I've ever been in my 40s. And it involved eating more food, lifting heavy stuff, and finally working with my hormones instead of pretending that they didn't exist. So let's dive in. Welcome to Muscle, Strength, and Menopause, the podcast for women over 40 who refuse to accept that nothing works anymore. I'm your host, Sarah Frenza, a certified nutrition coach, fitness expert, and hormone and menopause specialist, and the founder of the science-backed Hourglass Body Method. After losing 50 pounds in my 40s and helping hundreds of women transform their bodies and life, I'm here to show you the real way to lose fat, build muscle, and get stronger in midlife without burnout, starvation, or shame. If you're tired of fighting your hormones, struggling with stubborn belly fat, or wondering if it's too late to build the strong, confident body you want, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll break down the science, bust the myths, and share the exact strategies that are working right now for women in perimenopause and menopause. Because muscle is your menopause superpower, and we're about to show you how to claim it. Let's dive in. Okay, so let me back up and tell you about the moment I really had enough. So after I had my two kids, so I had gained 40 pounds with each of my pregnancies, which you know is fairly normal and fine, except my body apparently decided that those pounds were permanent residents who signed a lease and were not planning to leave. At the time, we were living with my parents because we were building our own home. And we needed a place to stay for about nine months while the home was being constructed. And yes, we got our home built in 9 months because that's what my husband does for a living. And he's efficient like that. But me, I was falling apart. I had constant back pain from carrying all that weight. I was exhausted all the time. And then one morning, I woke up, literally couldn't walk on my foot. Like, I'm talking, couldn't put weight on it without wanting to scream. I genuinely thought I had broken something in my sleep. Like, I actually didn't know what was going on, which honestly was kind of scary for me to wake up and not put my foot down. I thought it was asleep at first, but then I was like, no, like, this is actually, I can't even put anything on any pressure on my foot. So off to the hospital I went, hobbing like a wounded gazelle, convinced I was going to need a cast or surgery or one of those little scooter things. And the doctor looked at my x-rays and he said, your foot's not broken. You have plantar fasciitis. Plantar what now? Apparently, it's the painful condition that happens when your body is basically falling apart and you've been ignoring all the warning signs. And it wasn't just my foot. My lower back was a disaster. I'd been going to the chiropractor regularly, which, if you know anything about me, means things were bad because I was busy. I was a busy mom with my two kids, and I didn't have time for those appointments. So I had to make those appointments. Remember this day that my chiropractor looked at me while she was trying to fix my back and I was going for months, and said something that really remains clear in my head. She said, your core is so weak, Sarah. You really need to get strong. You really need to get healthy. And I nodded and smiled like, yeah, totally. I'll get right on that, while internally thinking about all the wine and cheese I was planning to eat that weekend and chips. But then the moment came, the moment that actually changed everything for me. You know how people say they have those rock bottom moments? I had this rock bottom moment. I was in bed one morning, my back screaming, my foot throbbing. Basically, at this time, I was 39 years old, and a 39-year-old woman trapped in an 80-year-old's body. And I heard my youngest daughter, her name is Kiara, crying for me from her room. I tried to get up and I couldn't. Okay, at this time, we're still living at my parents' house. The pain was so intense, I literally could not walk to help my own child. Now, remember, we were living with my parents at that time. They were right down the hall, but they were in their 70s. And there I was, not even 40 years old, having to call out for my elderly parents to come help me take care of my daughters because I was too unhealthy to do it myself. Again, think about that. My 70-year-old parents had to help me with my kids. Let that sink in for a second. I was so embarrassed, so ashamed, lying there in bed, listening to my daughter cry, waiting for my parents to shuffle in because I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be. That was my rock bottom. That was the moment I looked at myself really, really good in the mirror and thought, this is not the life I'm going to live. This is not the mom I'm going to be. This is not even me. I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I hated the way I looked. I hated putting on clothes every single morning. And that really was not me. I wasn't even 40. And yet I was already falling apart. So I made a decision right there. I was going to figure this out, whatever it took. So enter my impressive collection of diet failures. And trust me, it's extensive. So I did what any reasonable woman would do. I tried everything. Okay, so I tried isogenics, those meal replacement shakes that taste like a disappointment mixed with chalk. Yeah, I did that. I lost a few pounds, but I gained them right back the second I actually went back to eating real food. Then the other thing that I did was intermittent fasting, but at the time, I didn't know it was called intermittent fasting. At the time, I called it trying to starve myself and not eat for as long as I could every single morning. The skip breakfast and possibly lunch so you can eat your body weight in peanut butter at 9 p.m. That went well. Basically did not go well. Then I tried cutting carbs because everyone told me carbs were the devil. So I lived on chicken and broccoli and walked around with the personality of an angry gremlin. I had headaches from doing that. I hated cutting carbs. I hated it. None of these methods worked for me. And all I would do is I would lose 5 to 10 pounds over and over again, like I was stuck in some kind of weight loss Groundhog Day. And then I tried Weight Watchers, which did finally work. And now the reason why I think Weight Watchers worked for me is because I actually started tracking my food and somewhat weighing my food as well too. And I think the fact that I was tracking and weighing my food is a reason why Weight Watchers worked for me. And I lost 40 pounds the year that I turned 40. Except here's the problem. I look like a smaller version of my previous self. I look softer, flabbier, and without any actual muscle definition. Like I said, I had skinny arms, skinny legs, and big belly fat, a lot of belly fat. And I wanted to get rid of that. So here's what I didn't understand at that time and what no one was talking about. I was 41 years old. I was in the beginning of perimenopause, and everything I was doing was making my hormonal and body composition situation worse. My estrogen was slowly declining. My progesterone was basically ghosting me. My cortisol was through the roof from all the restriction and the stress that I was putting my body through. And my poor body was just trying to survive by holding on to every calorie and every fat cell like they were the last chips at a Super Bowl party. But no wonder I look like a sad, deflated version of myself. So what changed for me? So there I was post-vacation, spiraling in my feelings when I saw a friend post a transformation photo on her Facebook. She had actually done a photo shoot and she posted her before and after photo. And let me tell you, she looked amazing. She looked like a fitness model. She had toned arms, defined shoulders. She had a flat stomach, the kind of body where you're like, ma'am, excuse me, can I beat you? And I immediately sent her a text message, like a desperate person. And I was like, what have you been doing? Like, you look amazing. And she told me that she was working with a coach. And I was like, a coach? Like, what is even that? Like, what is a coach? I didn't even know coaches existed back then. I thought you either figured it out yourself or you just accepted your fate as, the mom body that you had. Like, this was my body after having kids and avoiding beach photos for the rest of your life. But I was desperate enough to try anything. So I reached out to her coach. Her name is Jenny. Shout out to Jenny. Back in 2020. And that's when my entire life changed. No, I'm not being dramatic here. It actually did completely change. So I started working with Jenny after a few months of stalking her on Instagram. Because I will tell you, at first, I was very scared to invest in myself. I had never spent that kind of money on myself before. And I was afraid to make that investment. And to be honest with you, I invested in working with Jenny. I didn't tell my husband at first. I just figured out a way to come up with the money, which for me was to not eat out as much, more home cooked meals, which was going to work with what I was doing anyways. I completely cut back on alcohol and I actually found the money. I realized I was spending a lot of money on alcohol, takeout, food, and I found the $400 a month to work with her. But Jenny did something that absolutely blew my mind. She didn't immediately put me on some aggressive low-calorie diet. She didn't tell me to cut out carbs or do more cardio. She didn't hand me a meal plan with grilled chicken and steamed vegetables. Instead, she said, we're going to eat food. So I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, we're going to increase your calories and eat food. I'd been restricting for years. Think about it. I did all of the cutting carbs and the isogenics and the Weight Watchers. And to be honest with you, Weight Watchers is on point. So I had no idea really how many calories I was consuming. It's probably consuming like 11 or 1,200 calories with Weight Watchers. I've been living, doing all of that. And now this coach tells me to come and eat more food. But my body loved it. But here's what my coach Jenny understood that I didn't. My metabolism was completely shot from years of dieting. My body was in survival mode. And if we tried to lose fat in that state, I'd just end up right back where I started or even worse with better, not great body composition. So instead, we focused on two major things. We focused on building up my metabolism back. So we increased my food, especially protein and carb intake to restore my metabolic function and hormonal health. Yes, carbs. Got to eat things like pasta and rice and bread again and oats. And the other thing we focused on was strength training. For the first time ever, I started lifting real weights. Not those cute little 5-pound dumbbells that basically function as inexpensive paperweights. I'm talking about lifting at heavier weights, working on progressive overload, learning compound movements, and building actual muscle. So I want to talk about the meal plan first. And what I loved is that she gave me a meal plan that was really easy to follow. So basically there was a meal plan and then I had like this food substitution calculator where I could substitute my foods for other foods. So I had really access to eat whatever I wanted. Okay. The meal plan was mostly whole foods. So it was Whole Foods, and then every day I could have a fun snack. For her, she called this post-workout snack. So I could have things like a bowl of cereal, or I could have some Rice Krispies treats and things like that. I could have that every single day. The other thing that was different about this meal plan is that I started eating more protein. I'd never had that much protein before. So I was eating protein at breakfast. I was having breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I was having a snack. I was eating 4 meals a day. And before I started working with Jenny, I was following her on Instagram, and I saw that she was talking about protein and eating more protein. And of course, like at that time in 2020, the beginning of 2020, I was Googling, what foods are high in protein. And at that time, it told me oats were high in protein. Oats is a carbohydrate. So this is why we never want to rely on the internet for the information. And now here we are 5 years later, we have AI, but even AI is not accurate. So please, lady, if you're listening to this, don't rely on AI. I've caught AI on a lot of mistakes, especially when it comes to calories and macronutrients and things like that. So, she gave me this meal plan, and I was really, really excited to work with her because I was learning so much. For me, I felt like I was like back in school. I was in nutrition and fitness school, and I was excited, and I had this desire to learn. I was like, oh my God, I'm finally figuring this out. After years of trying to diet, after years of doing, the Weight Watchers diet and not getting the results that I wanted to, like I wanted to look good. I wanted to look fit. I wanted to look like I wasn't carrying all that belly fat and muffin top. I wanted to look good in all of my clothes. So here Jenny came. It was like, she was like, oh, she was the God that came to me with the answer. And I was a very good student. I followed the meal plan religiously. I read all of her materials. Everything that she provided to me, I dove deep into it. I read all her materials, watched all her videos, learned as much as I could in the whole process. I was just soaking it all in. And so some of the things that I did to be really successful, because I know some of you might be new clients of ours that are listening to this podcast, maybe you're new on this journey as well too, is that, I started like planning out my meals for the week. I started meal prepping on Sundays, which was something that she had taught me, like, hey, she had taught me this. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that really stuck with me. And I continue to say that. I stole her saying, and I say that to my clients now, but it is so true. If I didn't know what I was eating the next day, how could I be successful? And at that time, I was working a full-time job. My girls were both 7 and 5 years old, so they were quite young. And I had to get organized with my time. I noticed that I started saying no to a lot of things that didn't serve me so I can have time in my schedule to do the things that I needed to do, like meal plan, grocery shop, make those meals and prep those meals, get my lunches ready. One thing that I started doing, and something that I teach my clients is plan it, set it, go get it. Plan out your week, set your next day for success, and go get it. It's so easy to do that. So I would always have my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I knew what I was eating the night before. I'd have my lunch ready to go, my breakfast ready to go. And I started getting into a very organized routine because, again, I was working full time. I started work at 8:30 a.m. every morning. And so I had to be very organized. I worked from 8:30 to 5. My commute to work was about 20 minutes. I had to bring my kids to school in the morning. All of these things had to happen. And I'm just like all of you. I needed to work this into my schedule. So being very organized with my time, I find was really, really helpful for me. So I always meal planned on Sunday. Another thing that I started doing is I started prepping my kids' lunches on Sunday as well too. And I still do it to this day. 5 years later, here I am. I'm still doing the same thing. I'm prepping my kids' lunches on Sunday. I prep their lunches in Planet boxes. There are stainless steel boxes or lunch boxes that have separate compartments in them. So I chop up their fruit, their veggies, put their cheese in there. Whatever I can get ready ahead of time, I have that prepped and ready to go. And so, yes, it took me a few hours on Sunday to do this, but guess what I wasn't doing the rest of the week when I was coming home from my work? I wasn't spending an hour and a half in the kitchen every night. I had my food prepped and ready to go. We would warm up whatever it is that I've made, and it made life so much easier. So I learned to meal plan. I learned to meal prep, which this is a big compartment of our one-on-one coaching. Part of our one-on-one coaching program is teaching our clients how to do this, how to have the skills to be successful when it comes to your nutrition. Because most of the women that we work with, they're in the height of their careers. They're busy women. Some of them still have young kids. They're active in their community. And so when it comes down to being successful with your nutrition, this is a big part of it. And I mastered it. Okay. I mastered it. The next thing with the strength training that, she gave me an app and I followed the workout program on the app. I worked out from home. So I started off with some dumbbells and resistance bands and a yoga ball. And eventually, as I continued to work with her, I got stronger. And I needed to buy heavier weights, more than I ended up buying, they had a weight set at the time from Costco. And I still have it. I still use it. It's from 10 to the max is 30-pound dumbbells. And then from there, I ended up buying a bench with a chest press bar on it. I could also, I don't know if you can see it, you probably can't here, but in behind here, my corner here, in my home gym right now, this is my gym / office that I'm talking in. I ended up buying this bench that you could also do lying leg curls on it. Then I bought a barbell, an Olympic barbell. And with the Olympic barbell, I ended up buying a squat rack, which I still have. You can see it behind me because I started going from squatting with the dumbbell to eventually squatting with the squat rack. Then we ended up buying a universal machine, and my home gym just continued to grow. For me, I live in the country. So for me at the time, the only time that worked out for me to work out was 5 a.m. in the morning. And I'll talk about that story later on, why 5 a.m. in the morning didn't work for me. But at that time, 5 a.m. in the morning did work for me. So I started going to bed early. I was in bed by 9 p.m. And this is another thing that we worked on is like learning how much sleep was important. So I went to bed at 9. I would wake up at 5 a.m. I'd have everything laid out for me downstairs to quickly make my coffee and go downstairs and train. At the time, I was working out fasted, which afterwards you realize I shouldn't have been doing that. And then eventually I would have, a little bit of half of my breakfast before we go downstairs and train. And I'd work out. Between 5:30 till about 6:30, quarter to 7. Then I came upstairs, woke up my kids, we got ready, and we were out of the door by 8 a.m. And I would drive them down to, school, drop them off to school, and my work was around the corner, and I'd go to work afterwards. But that was my schedule every morning. And this was my schedule on how I make these things work. Because, one of the biggest things I hear is like, I don't have time. But you know what happened with me is I made the investment, I found the money, and I found the time in my schedule. Why? Because this became a priority for me. I started getting obsessed with this because I was like, I felt so good in the process. And I ended up getting into the best shape of my life. What she did with me with building, muscle and strength training, that is what actually transformed my body. The fact that the nutrition was science backed up nutrition with eating the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats in my diet. That's what actually allowed my body to build lean muscle. And I lost the belly fat. Because think about it. I had lost 40 pounds already. That belly fat was still there. And you know why that belly fat was still there? Is because I became skinny fat. And for those of you that don't know what the term that skinny fat means, it means that under the hood, under my skin, I was carrying a lot of body fat and not a lot of muscle. Because what ended up happening with Weight Watchers is the way that I lost weight with Weight Watchers is that it was so focused on just cutting calories and restrictive diet and extreme calorie restriction that only focused on me losing the number on the scale, which out of that 40 pounds, I probably lost about 20 pounds of muscle. Let's say 15, 20 pounds of muscle. That is why I looked the way that I did. So when you lose a lot of muscle during your weight loss journey, it also affects your overall body composition and you turn into what we call skinny fat. Meaning that, yes, I'm smaller, but I'm also still carrying a significant amount of body fat, which is why I had that big belly. And I remember touching that belly, I would feel like little balls of fat in there. It was all belly fat. But with working with Jenny, I got into the best shape of my life. I lost an additional 10 pounds. I completely reshaped my body. My belly fat was completely gone. And I had this beautiful hourglass figure. Rounded shoulders, V-taper back, the smaller waistline, the lifted glutes. This is how I wanted to look like after I'd done Weight Watchers. But the process of Weight Watchers did not get me there. And that was just simply because I was focusing on the number on the scale. And I did not know any better to focus on the body composition, which is the most important thing. So I started working with Jenny in her one-on-one in her coaching program in the summer of 2020. And I decided to do a photo shoot in March of 2021. So I'd worked with her, let's say about 9 months, got into fantastic shape in 9 months. And I did this professional photo shoot because she had encouraged me to do that. She's like, you look really great. Why don't you celebrate your transformation with a photo shoot? And at first, when she presented that idea to me, I had said no. I'm like, no, I don't really want to do that. I want to look like I could do a photo shoot, but I really don't want to do a photo shoot. But then as I started seeing how my body was changing, I started becoming more confident. I started loving what I saw in the mirror. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I'm going to do a photo shoot. So that photo shoot was amazing. I ended up doing the photo shoot. The photographer's name is Paul Becerra. He was the chief photographer of, at the time, actually, I think he owned Strong Fitness magazine. And he's now the chief photographer of Strong Fitness magazine, but he is the founder of Strong Fitness magazine. And I had a blast that day. It was the first time I got to meet Jenny in person. She was an online coach with me, so we had only communicated through, email or text messaging. We did a few phone calls, but that's how she liked to coach, and that's how she communicated with me. So it was the first time meeting her. I had prepped for this photo shoot, and it was honestly, I had a blast. The first time I saw myself in those photos, I was like, oh my God, is that actually me? Is that actually me? Like, I could not believe that was me. I felt so confident. I felt so amazing. And I was on top of the world. I felt like I could do anything. Like, throw anything at me, I could do it, because I had just done and achieved the biggest goal of my life, which was to get my dream body. And here I was celebrating with a photo shoot, and I looked like I looked like a model. It was like amazing. I felt empowered. I felt confident. I felt like myself again. The changes that I saw were physical, but that year there were a lot of changes that had happened just with me personally, because you got to think about it when you're on your weight loss journey. Yes, you're physically changing, but you're also changing as a person. Like, think about, I wasn't confident when I was overweight. when I weighed like 190 pounds. How confident was I at that time? Not confident at all. I wasn't confident when I was like hiding behind my kids and pictures and hating what I wore every single day, saying all of that negative self-talk to myself every day. But now I felt like I could do anything. So in that 2021 photo shoot, right after that photo shoot, I decided at that photo shoot, every single woman needs to feel like this. Every single woman that has felt like I did before, where I felt so horrible of myself, needs to get to this place. And I want to help them get there. And I told Jenny that day, I'm like, I think I want to coach women. And I actually said to her that day, is there anything that I can do for you right now so that other women can experience this? What can I do for you? And so I started working with her like part-time, but she also mentored me to start taking my nutritional coaching certification and also my personal training certification. And by the end of that year, after I got my certifications, I started coaching a small group of women. So I started coaching some women for free. I actually started coaching some women for free because that was part of my certification. I had to work with a few women for free for 3 months, and I had to submit my work to Nutritional Coaching Institute to show them that I'm capable of coaching and understand how to do this. And then eventually they gave me my certification. So I started working with my guinea pigs first. And then I started taking on some other clients as well, too. I was sharing my journey on social media. So a lot of people had seen my journey. A lot of people had witnessed my transformation. And when I announced that I was starting to coach women, I had a lot of family, friends, followers reach out to me. So I started coaching these women and I loved it. I was in my element. And that is really when my business started, which is Sarah Frenza Fitness and Nutrition. That's when it started, the end of 2021. And I also started going after some other goals I had, which was to get published in fitness magazines. And I wanted to land covers of some magazines. These goals all became, and goals and dreams became reality for me. I was first published in Strong Fitness magazine in 2022. So the year later, I had my first workout spread. That is something that Jenny helped me achieve. Then I got published in other magazines as well, too. In Inside Fitness magazine, that's another Canadian magazine. I started writing articles, which I got published in Inside Fitness magazine. I also submitted to the top 100 hot and fit women, and I won that in 3 years in a row, 2021, 2022, and 2023 issues. That's in Inside Fitness magazine. And I got published in other ones, Fitness magazine in New Zealand, Gmaro magazine, Muscle and Health. They published one of my articles as well as it was a workout spread article in there. I got covers of magazines, Center Stage magazine, Pump magazine cover. And then there was other magazines that I got into. And I just wanted to see how far I could go with this. And I was very, I went from avoiding mirrors to becoming a published fitness model. And this is from a woman that I had never lifted heavy weights like that. I did when I was younger in my 20s, and I did body pump classes. But that was, nowhere, that was small, tiny weights, not very heavy weights. But, I came from being very novice at this to going after these really big dreams. The other thing that happened for me is that my goal was to leave my full-time career, and I did it. I ended up, I had a position in sales and marketing. I worked for a home builder. I had lots of years of experience in sales. And I think that job really helped me move into opening up my own business. And I was fortunate enough that once I started coaching, things just started snowballing for me that I was able to leave. Like, I started working part-time in the beginning of 2022, and then I left that job and I started working full-time on my business as of May 2022. I also had some really great TV opportunities. I was on CHCH Morning Live quite a few times. That's a local station here. Also locally on Cable 14. And I started doing a lot of those things. I also became a brand ambassador for Perfect Sports Supplements. They are the creators of the Diesel Whey protein powder. This is my favorite protein powder. So I became an ambassador with them, and I still am today. But what I had learned through my experience, my education, what I learned became the foundation of my own coaching method, which I call today, it's my Hourglass Body Method, which we have a 3-phase system, which is called Restore, Lean Out, and Sustain approach. And I'm just kind of going to break this down for you so that you can understand a little bit about my coaching program and what we do. So our first phase is called Restore. This is the phase that a lot of women skip, especially in perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause. And this is why they stay stuck. In this phase, Restore, what we are focused on is restoring metabolic health and supporting your hormones. Okay. So what we do in this phase is we help you eat more food, especially protein. We want you to make sure that you're eating at least 1 gram of protein per pound of goal weight. We make sure that you're eating the right amount of carbohydrates and fats. And we want you to be eating at maintenance calories before we even bring you into fat loss. The next thing that we do is we get you strength training. So whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, we get you on a strength training program that is suitable for you. And what we really want to do is spend, 6 to 8 weeks helping you build some muscle. Because muscle is your menopause superpower. Okay. That is what's going to boost your metabolism. That's what's going to help with things like insulin sensitivity. And it's really going to be the foundation to helping your body burn more body fat later on. We also focus on lifestyle habits like managing, getting proper sleep, managing stress, because cortisol is basically the villain in your weight loss story. So if we don't address cortisol and address supporting insulin, if one night of bad rest shoots can make you insulin resistant on top of already being insulin resistant as we go through perimenopause and menopause. And we really focus on supporting your hormones, not just your sex hormones. I'm talking about cortisol, ghrelin, leptin, thyroid, through proper nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits, and some supplements, bringing in some proper vitamin, making sure you're getting the right type of nutrients that you need. And in this phase, this is when our clients start to feel fantastic. They start sleeping better. They feel stronger. The cravings are gone. The hunger pain, that they have all the time is completely gone. And this is where we are spending time bringing their body back to a really good state of homeostasis. They have more energy. They have more strength. We're teaching them how to get organized, how to meal plan, how to meal prep, see what works with their lifestyle. But that's what's happening underneath is critical. You're restoring your insulin sensitivity. We're supporting thyroid function. We're building muscle tissue and getting your hormones back online. And this phase makes everything else possible. Then we move on to our next phase, which is called the lean out phase. Okay, so once your metabolism restored and hormones are balanced, we focus and we built that foundation of muscle and nutrition. Then we can go into fat loss, but only when our client is ready. Okay, we have certain biofeedback markers that we look at to ensure that our client is ready to go into a fat loss phase. So we create a moderate calorie deficit. We don't do an aggressive calorie deficit because we want to make sure that we are preserving lean muscle mass throughout this whole process. We keep protein high to preserve all that beautiful muscle that we built. We continue strength training because that's what gives you the tone, defined hourglass body look. And we focus on walking. Okay, walking, continuing to walk as this helps lower cortisol levels and also balance blood sugar regulation. And this is where women start seeing the physical changes. The belly fat melting off. They start getting that beautiful hourglass figure. So the rounded shoulders, the V taper back, the smaller waistline, the lifted glutes, the nice defined legs. They start seeing their strength go up instead of going down, and we start seeing that beautiful hourglass shape come in. But here's the magic. Because we stored the metabolism and we supported hormones first, that is why your body is responding now. Because if you think about it, how can you go into a calorie deficit if you aren't sleeping well? You have no energy levels. It just doesn't work. You're not fighting your hormones anymore. We're working with your hormones. Okay. It's like we're working with them like a power duo you were always meant to be. Okay. Then we basically stay in this phase until you've reached your goal. And then the final phase that we take you through is called sustain. So this is where we teach you how to maintain your results. This is where we reverse you back out of the diet. We bring you back up to maintenance calories because we cannot be living in a calorie deficit forever. We focus on complete lifestyle integration, how to travel, how to eat at restaurants, how to enjoy holidays without spiraling out of control, how to continue building strength because muscle is what keeps your metabolism healthy and long term. Muscle is also what keeps you mobile, prevents disease. So it's very, very important for us women in perimenopause and postmenopause to focus on building muscle. And, it's not about maintaining your weight. It's about living a lifestyle where you feel strong, where you feel confident and in control without obsessing over food and feeling like it's a full-time job. This is where we actually teach our clients intuitive eating, learning, you've spent all this time weighing and measuring your food. You know how to create meals. Now let's do this without weighing your food. Let's do this with intuitive eating so that this really becomes a complete lifestyle integration. So for years, I was obsessed with being perfect on my diet, tracking every point on Weight Watchers, never going over, making separate meals for my family. And you know what that got me? It got me exhausted, burnt out, and still not in the shape that I wanted to be. Meanwhile, my life was passing by me because I was too busy calculating points to actually live. The women who get the best results in my program are the ones who move daily, have daily treats built into their meal plan. We focus on 80% whole foods, 20% fun foods. Yes, even chocolate. Yes, even the treats that they love. The ones they go on vacation and don't stress about gaining 2 pounds of water weight. They eat meals with their families instead of making separate diet meals like they're from another planet. And they focus on what they're gaining: strength, energy, confidence, just not what they're losing. Okay. Your body doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. And consistency is way easier when you're not white knuckling your way through life pretending carbs don't exist. And I want to tell you something. You are not too old, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. I cannot tell you how many women I'd said, Sarah, I'm 49, I'm 53, I'm 63. It's too late for me, or that boat has sailed. And every time I hear this, I want to reach through the screen and shake them gently by the shoulders and tell them it is never too late. I transformed my body at 42, but I have clients in their 50s, their 60s who are getting into the best shape of their lives. Does menopause change things? Yes, it does. Are your hormones different? Obviously, your biology has changed, okay, with the loss of estrogen and progesterone that happens during this menopausal transition. Does the approach that worked in your 20s still work? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean you can't build muscle. That doesn't mean you can't lose fat. That doesn't mean you can't look in the mirror and think, damn, who is this girl? It means you need a smarter plan. One designed specifically for this season of life, not some cookie cutter program designed by a 25-year-old Instagram influencer who think perimenopause is a type of pasta. Muscle is your menopause superpower, not cardio, muscle. And here's what everything changed for me. When I stopped obsessing over the scale and started focusing on building muscle, my entire body transformed. Okay? Here's what muscle does for you. It gives you that tone-defined look. Cardio does not. It does not build muscle. No matter how many hours you spend on the treadmill or bike or whatever it is that you're doing, or HIIT classes, boot camp classes, it's not going to give you that tone-defined look. Muscle keeps your metabolism high so you can actually eat food like a human. It protects your bones when we are more prone to osteoporosis as we go through perimenopause and menopause, and then eventually you're in postmenopause. It improves insulin sensitivity, which helps you lose belly fat. It helps with the menopause symptoms like hot flashes, mood swings, sleep quality, all of it. That is why strength training is a non-negotiable in my program. Not cardio, not yoga, though I do love yoga, and yoga's fine for, a nice day of rest day that you're doing. Strength training, lifting heavy, progressive overload, building actual muscle tissue, and getting stronger. That's what transforms your body in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. So here's what I want you to remember from this episode. You're not broken. Your body needs a smarter plan for this season of life. The approach that got me results and that's gotten over 400 women that I personally work with results that I've coached with comes down to 3 things. We need to restore your metabolism and hormones first before trying to lose fat. This is a step that every woman skips and then wonder why nothing works, okay? If you have high cortisol, if you are insulin resistant, if you are, dealing with thyroid issues, if you have all of these hormonal fluctuations and we're not supporting that first, fat loss will become deprioritized. So we have to address the root cause first. Then we can go lean out strategically while preserving muscle mass so you don't end up looking skinny fat like I did when I did Weight Watchers. And then you got to learn how to sustain your results for life. Did you know that 95% of people that lose weight regain it back afterwards? It's mostly because of the way that they went into their fat loss journey and they have no idea how to maintain it. So that is why it's key, okay? It's about working with your body instead of against it like you're in, some weird wrestling match. If you're ready to stop, spinning your wheels and finally build that strong, confident body you want, even if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause, I'd love to help you. We work with women in our coaching program where we customize your nutrition, your strength training, and accountability to your specific hormones, lifestyle, and goals. I'll drop the link below if you're interested in getting more information about our one-on-one coaching program. But thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. I wanted to share a little bit about myself and my own journey so you can understand that I understand where you are coming from. I've been through this journey myself, and hopefully that you can join me on this next episode of Muscle Strength and Menopause, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining me, and bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to the Muscle Strength and Menopause podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you hit the follow, leave a 5-star review, or share this with another woman over 40 who needs to hear this message. And if you're ready to stop working against your hormones and start building the muscle that becomes your menopause superpower, visit sarahfrenzafitness.com to learn about my one-on-one coaching program using my signature Hourglass Body Method. Remember, this isn't your decline, ladies. This is your comeback. And so I hope you tune in again next week. Now, before we go, a quick reminder, this podcast offers health, nutrition, and fitness information for entertainment and educational purpose only. Always consult with your physician or healthcare professional for any health-related questions. And remember that any information provided here is at your own risk.